With the release of Endgame, the MCU now has 22 films, and I'm going to rank them all from worst to best. Spoilers for all of the MCU films, including Endgame. I'll also put these films in categories of overall consensus of each film, starting with the bad. All of these are the MCU films which I think were bad and I got really no enjoyment from watching. Kicking off the list, we have number 22 as For the Dark World, and this is absolutely crap and the most boring film I've ever seen. I don't even remember a single line this alien geezer says. I do, however, remember one part where Odin says,
"You must think I'm a piece of bread."
and this is actually the best part of the film, as I had no idea what he was on about. Number 21 is Captain Marvel. I hate this film not because the movie genuinely sucks major assets, but because I am a sexist white male that hates women. In all seriousness, I hate this film. This stale crisp of a main character is so unlikable, she makes me want to die in a fridge rather than watch her again. And now we've got them gems out of the way, let's get to the significant category in the group. I'm rightfully calling the they're fine category. Starting with number 20, The Incredible Hulk. Not gonna lie, this film is better than it's made out to be. The characters are fine, except for most of them, and it feels so insignificant in the grand scheme of things that I genuinely skipped it until I needed a film to watch on a plane. It's so irrelevant that not even is referred to again in this entire franchise. It's still entertaining enough in its own right, though. 19! Thor. The not sequel to the 22 of this list is Thor. While Thor himself does have a good arc in the story, arguably his best until Ragnarok, the movie does have a truck ton of issues like Thor's blonde brows, these three weirdos, and the entire area of New Mexico. Loki is awesome, but that's Loki for you, and Asgard is cool in the few scenes you see it in. Also, I'm sure that at least 10% of this movie was filmed on a tripod with one broken leg because there is more Dutch angles in this film than there is good scenes in Captain Marvel. 18 is Iron Man 2. Honestly, this film is underrated. Yeah, I get there's a damn ton of issues, but at the same time we have Elon Musk, so kinda cancels out. Mark V is my favourite suit ever, and the storyline of Tony finding a replacement element is actually pretty neat. I guess what this one boils down to is that there's a lot of good stuff, but too much of it. Like, they don't develop one part good enough as they have to move on to the next thing, so it starts to feel a lot like Spider-Man 3. So it's good in its own right, but definitely very flawed. And now number 17 is Captain America: The First Avenger. I've seen this film twice now and literally only remember about 40% of it. Why is that? Because it's boring and forgettable. Now, don't get me wrong, there are enjoyable moments, and unlike Iron Man 2, it's focused and well paced, but as an origin story, it's just nah. The main takeaway I get from this movie is its beautiful moral message of if you're a good person, you can legally take steroids. Number 16 is Ant-Man and the Wasp, and I actually kind of like this one. It has two big problems that really hold it back in my opinion, and that's this Asian guy villain who was so forgettable I don't remember his name. What was it, Sunny or something? I feel like it was Sunny. And the other is they pulled a stereotype on Ant-Man where they dumbed him down and made him a comical slapstick to make the female character look more impressive, which I hate, and I'm so glad they fixed this in Endgame. On the flip end, we have Wasp, who was amazing in the time that we had with her, and I really wished I spent more time developing her, as she was such a cool villain in the time that we did get to see her. The Wasp is also pretty good if it wasn't for what I mentioned previously, but overall it's funny and charming and it's low stakes, but it has some major setbacks. This next category is the good to great category, starting with number 15, Doctor Strange. Out of all the films on this list, Doctor Strange feels the most formulaic and easily the biggest example of the quote-unquote Marvel formula. Other flaws include setting up Doctor Strange's love interest and doing absolutely nothing with it, and this insanely bland villain. Visually, this one is insane and Mystic Arts are such a cool addition, but I wish they explored it just a little more because the parts that we do see are fantastic. Benedict Cumberbatch was also brilliantly cast and fits the role perfectly. And I've also recently learned as I was writing the scripts that he was in a film about Brexit too, so yay! Number 14, Spider-Man Homecoming. Despite a lot of people saying that they despise this version of Spider-Man, I'm going to have to completely disagree. Tom Holland nails the role and is the best live-action adaptation yet, not Maguire. Michael Keaton's Vulture is one of the best villains in the MCU, and I think the choice to skip over Peter's overdone backstory was a really neat choice. I do in a sense agree that Spidey's character has been a little reduced to just a cute fangirl character, but with Far From Home coming soon, I feel that that's going to solve some of this issue. 13, Ant-Man. I actually forgot how entertaining this was, so it was a really pleasant surprise rewatching it. I laughed at jokes, I was entranced by the heist aspect, and I was entertained by the action, for the most part. I really wish they would have played with the shrinking mechanics a little more, like in this final battle scene, because it would have given Ant-Man so much more of an identity. Because of Ant-Man and the Wasp, I genuinely forgot just how awesome Ant-Man as a character actually was, and it actually surprised me that he's a clever thief with a master in electrical engineering. Other than this specific film, it's never really brought up again. He's made way more competent in Endgame and Redeemed, but for the next film I'd like to see them play with his knowledge integrated with the shrinking to make the character more unique compared to the Wasp. Number 12, Black Panther. Bit of a disclaimer, I haven't seen Black Panther in quite some time, so my opinions are based off of the last time I watched it. I personally don't think it was as good as it was made out to be when it was released, but it's still great in its own right. The story is unique and interesting, and the villain is my third favourite after Vulture and Thanos. His motivations tie into the story in such a beautiful way that I don't have time to go into in detail about. There's so many videos, just go look at one of them if you want to find out more about this. I also love the costume designs and Wakanda's culture. As for negatives, Black Panther himself is quite underdeveloped and honestly the least interesting part of Wakanda and the entire film. This is a character trait of Black Panther that's even still going on with Infinity War and Endgame. Also, this is just disgusting visual effects. How on earth was this nominated for Best VFX? This fight is cool, but come on, you have to be kidding me with this. Other than that, it's good. Number 11 is Avengers Age of Ultron. Wow, this is another film that's massively underrated and so much better than I remember. After the weekend away I spent watching all of these films, I noticed that every phase feels slightly different to the last. What's interesting about Phase 2 is that it's still a grounded story, but it starts doing things to push to a more cosmically sided phase. And I think this is shown no better than in Age of Ultron. Characters are in some of the best positions. It was Black Widow and Hawkeye's best film until Endgame, and everyone was so thought of in the story. I think people consider this bad because of the marketing hyping up to be much darker than it was, Banner and Natasha's forced love story, and Thor's advertisement vision in the middle. But with such good visuals, characters, development, action, and so much more, I think this is one of the most underrated MCU films. Hell, even writing this script I boosted it up a placement. Number 10, Iron Man, the kicker offer, saved Robert Downey Jr., made Iron Man the household name, yada yada yada. Look, you've heard it so many times before, there's no use in me repeating it. It's really good in all honesty, and it's only 10 because I prefer the rest of this list a little bit more. Iron Man, fantastic, let's move on. Finally, we get to the big section of the fantastic films, starting with number 9. Thor Ragnarok. This film completely fixed Thor. After this he became one of the best MCU heroes, and I briefly ran through his character and why it worked in my Captain Marvel video. Super funny and entertaining throughout. They introduced Immigrant Song as Thor's theme for the film, and I'm so sad they didn't use it for future films. Hulk is really good, and other characters like Valkyrie and Loki work wonders as always. Taika Waititi was such a perfect choice to direct this film, and really helped fix and redeem Thor as a character. As for criticisms, sometimes the comedy ruins the emotional scenes, and the B-plot on Asgard could have been so much better. But overall, it's a fine and amazing addition to the MCU. Number 8! Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This film makes you feel emotional about a bloody raccoon. A raccoon! You know, them annoying little critters for being the most vicious, obnoxious little shit. Before Endgame came out, this was easily the MCU film with the most emotion, especially Yondu's death and this beautiful scene with a sweet song in the background making for the wrapping on a beautiful birthday present.
How can I try to explain? When I do, he turns away again. It's always been the same old story.
The soundtrack, while not as good as the first films, is pretty good and fits the context of the film. I could gush about things I loved for ages, but that'd take too long. The film has a mediocre villain and quite a few jokes that don't really work in my opinion, but the emotional core drowns these out. Volume 2 is amazing. Number 7. Civil War. This had the most impact to the MCU going forward until Infinity War. It was crafted by the Russos, so naturally it's well made and fits the tone amazingly. It shows a massive event in the timeline to the major established characters while also greatly introducing Spider-Man and Black Panther. Not only that, but it has one of the most well-made, greatest fights in the entire film in the final battle. Yeah, the airport scene is a cool spectacle, but if we're honest, it has little to no emotion. This is proven by this dumb piece of dialogue.
We're still friends, right?
Depends on how hard you hit me.
In this final fight, however, tension, check. Emotion, check. Comedy? None, which makes for one of the greatest MCU duels in my opinion. Number 6. Avengers Assemble, or if you're an American, The Avengers. If I'm totally honest, I think the first Avengers film is a tad overrated, but despite this, it's still fantastic. It brings together a group of remarkable people to do something the film industry could not. The third act was one of the best and the group dynamic was fantastic. It also looks way more like a TV episode with its poor lighting and weird aspect ratio, so that massively hinders its cinematography points. Plus, it has a pretty slow pace and is grounded to one location most of the film, so while the character interactions are fantastic, it's still held back from capturing 100% of my interest. Number 5. Captain America the Winter Soldier. A big, massive political thriller with emotion, action, and impact to the franchise going forward. Not much to say about it other than it's fantastic and easily deserving of the number 5 spot. Go watch it. Number 4. Trigger warning. Iron Man 3. Some people have this way at the bottom of the list, and to that I say...
What? What the fuck?
Yeah, sure, the Mandarin wasn't like the comics, but why do you care? Admittedly, the real villain isn't as good as the proposed Mandarin could have been, but using that specific reason to discredit every positive this film has is just ridiculous. First of all, the action scenes here are fabulous. PTSD element is interesting, but my favourite aspect is how it shows that Tony isn't just a man in a suit, but a genius as he's had everything taken away and has to work with a crappy prototype suit and invent his way out of solutions. I strongly believe that if it wasn't for the characterization in this film, Iron Man wouldn't be as loved as he was now, and that final sacrifice in Endgame wouldn't be as impactful. Thank you, Iron Man 3. You're truly the best. Also, my friend's reaction to all of the suits cracked me up and I wish I recorded it. Number 3. Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay, if you've not seen Guardians of the Galaxy yet, go do it. There's a reason why every real MCU fan got upset when James Gunn was fired, and that's because Guardians of the Galaxy is an absolute masterpiece. There's so many incredible scenes that when I picked one for my One Marvelous Scene video, all of my choices were from this film. Every character is beautifully flawed, so it makes it so intriguing to watch this group of misfits come together for the greater good. Not only that, but there is some great comedy in this film with characters like Drax being a constant source of humour. What else? Well, it's visually beautiful, emotionally beautiful, and sounds beautiful with the awesome Mix Volume 1 soundtrack. I mentioned it at Volume 2, but this one is amazing, and easily the best of the two in my opinion. The character arcs of the team make for the greatest franchise in the MCU, and with James Gunn back for Volume 3, I'm so excited to see what he produces. And number 2 and 1, now we get to the controversial picks. Which one will go where? Will Endgame be first or will Infinity War be first? Well, at number 2... Avengers Endgame. Holy crap, this was epic. The culmination feels like it, with the final battle being truly legendary with actual stakes throughout the entire film. Tony and Nat's death were fantastic, and I loved mostly every moment with the time heist, and seeing the characters in this emotional state was great to watch. The fan service was so extreme that we were freaking out at moments like Cap lifting Mjolnir and the portal scene, but there was a couple of minor things I would have tweaked though. I might make a video about it if I feel like it and people want it, but basically I change a few things with Captain Marvel, tweak Hulk and Thor slightly. These aren't big enough issues to hinder my enjoyment though, and I'm so grateful that this culmination exists. Everything you could have ever wanted comes in this film. Thank you, Marvel. The reason I find Infinity War better than Endgame is that I genuinely can't think of a single flaw I had with it, unlike Endgame. The story is so much more naturally flowing and brilliantly paced, and seeing all of these characters come together and fight alongside each other in a grand ensemble that is so damn entertaining to experience. Then you have the ending, which left most people speechless and bamboozled by what just went down on screen, that when they left the cinema, Their minds jumped to as many possibilities of what the future had to hold, and theorising began. I personally had an experience like that, so the entire year between the two films have been full of tension and hype. I genuinely believe that these two films will be the peak of the MCU, and there's such a small chance that we're going to have anything close to this again. So I'll say it again. Thank you, Marvel. Alright, thanks for watching my ranking video of every MCU film. A couple of things before I go. It's been a long ass time since I uploaded, and that's for a mixture of things. For one, I now have exams going on, so that's been taking up my time, and I'm incredibly lazy. And for some reason, I just haven't found the motivation to finish writing this script. I've finished it now, though, after pushing myself to do it. Another thing about the Endgame review, I started the script but scrapped it as it wasn't going the way I wanted it. And now at this point, I don't even know if I want to dedicate a video to it. I don't know, let me know if you want to see it, I might finish it. Finally, I've been considering doing more scene analyses. Analysi? Analysi? No, that doesn't sound right. Screw it, I'm going with analysi. I've been considering doing more scene analysi from multiple franchises, so yet again, let me know if you'll be interested. Anyway, thanks for watching this very late video. Bye!